You're listening to The Jeff Zapp Show.
He's not a conspiracy theorist. He's just a patriot, standing for God, family, and country. Now, here's your host, the Zapper.
All right, welcome everyone to this Friday afternoon session of the Jeff Zapp Show. I'm your host, the town crier. The Zapper's in the saddle in the studio this afternoon. Appreciate you tuning in. We're going to be trying out a new platform stream on X. So currently live, Rumble, YouTube, and formerly known as Twitter, X, the platform that seems to be taking back free speech. I don't know. It seems to be pretty good. So I've made some changes. First and foremost, if you are just joining the show, wondering what's this old redhead talking about, sit back, relax. This is going to be more of a test, a quick little trial of the new streaming platform on X, which I'm pretty excited about. Looks like it's coming in good. Hopefully the audio and video, I don't know how to be able to display at least the live chat. Okay, it does. It's up. So that's good. But if you have first-time listeners or long-time listeners, I certainly appreciate it. You can we're currently live right now on Rumble, and you'll notice that the live chat used to be called Rumble Rants. The live chat is up. You can throw your comments in there. What's going on? What's shaking this Friday afternoon? 2:09 Eastern here, heart of the Low Country, Bluffton, South Carolina. Broadcasting live from my studio here. And how's everybody doing as we finish up what have kind of been really a crazy and chaotic week for sure. We had the biggest election in the history of our country on Tuesday. And whether you're on the left, the right, or somewhere in between, I think everyone is reeling from what has transpired, not only just this week, but quite honestly over the course of the past several years. I'll go back 4 years and say ever since COVID hit, it seems like we've been living in this upside-down world. The Twilight Zone is what I called it. It's like I stepped into a chapter of the Twilight Zone. Isn't it crazy? And we're trying to get back to some semblance, and I think I try to practice what I preach here. If you're wondering what the show is all about, I really have focused on this mission, which is encouraging you, the listener, and whether you, depending on what your beliefs are, but primarily for my brothers and sisters in Christ, encouraging you in the way that leads to truth, freedom, and hope found only in Christ alone. I've set it out of my mission. I feel that God has placed on my heart, at least, you see on social media specifically today, and I'm going to share a few examples before we get into the nitty-gritty. The hate, the vitriol, the mudslinging back and forth, the two-camp system that has been successful. I have always said we're in this information war, and we have been for a while, that allows us to point fingers, to castigate, to demonize, and throw mud at those that we have labeled. And this is true on both sides, the two-camp system. It's an easy way to divide and conquer us as a species, but humankind. And so if this is your first time here and you're like, what is this guy talking about? Well, my meta-narrative, which you could go back and see all of the archives on my website. I'm sure that you'll go into great detail. I'm not going to go into it today, but thejeffzappshow.com. Go there and find out a little bit more about myself. Really am trying to follow what Jesus has told us, is to love our neighbors ourselves. Most of you have seen some of this movement already within the past 2 days. Some of the craziness that's just happening here. I honestly I try to be careful because I try to look at what's happening as objectively as I can. This 4B movement, and my wife was perusing the X platform last night, and she showed me a couple videos, but I was, I'm curious. I'm like, where does this stuff start? And, I understand that social media has become a platform here. The pot calling the kettle black. It's an easy opportunity for us to voice our concerns, and I'm all for that. I've always said my program specifically, if you go to my website, I may not agree with your viewpoint, right? But I'm going to support your right under the First Amendment to speak what you feel is on your mind. So I don't certainly have a monopoly on the truth. Neither do you. I'm wrong a lot of the time. What's that old saying? I'm right 50% of the time, but just don't know which 50%. I think we're all living in a period of time now, specifically because of the influence of a very toxic social media presence where most people, and especially the younger generation, I don't know how you do it. I talk to my kids about it frequently, how they're able to communicate so, I don't want to say effectively. It's like nonstop communication. They're inundated. It's ubiquitous communication, and not all of it is good. And so how have we gotten here? Well, these platforms, some of them have been more restrictive in the past because, there are certain buzzwords. This all goes back to when I was growing up. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm a mid-50s guy, and I don't have all the answers. But if you're a younger, Gen Z or millennial tuning in, you're saying, what is this guy talking about? Well, stick around because really this is a platform for us to start entering into some dialogue so I can understand or appreciate movements such as the Me Too or the 4B movement in this case. I had to look it up. I was curious. Are you curious? Let's go ahead and dive into this. Let me see if I can bring this up on my side. And we'll just go ahead and put this up on the screen and you can follow along just so everyone can see. This is out.com. I want to make sure that I give reference where references is needed. And somebody wrote this, and actually I guess if I can scroll up here, if I can find if there is an author. So Gabriella Angelina, thank you. She wrote this November 7th at 1:11 Eastern Time. What is the 4B movement, in case you're wondering? So again, I'm just right on this out.com. It looks like it's coming across just absolutely fine. I'll just summarize. It's now an online trend, and you're seeing more and more people. Maybe you've seen some of this. In fact, we'll go to a clip here in a second. But it reportedly kicked off in South Korea in 2019 when women there began standing up. I'm reading verbatim from this now. Standing up to the expectations around dating, marriage, and family life. So it's basically a protest, if you will. And I'm assuming, based on what we've seen thus far, these people, these women, are now protesting because of the 47th president-elect. They're going to stand in solidarity that they're going to do some things different. This is their protest. And the name 4B comes from 4 rejections. It looks like it's in Korean here, but it's, I'll say, translating into English. 4 rejections here. No marriage, no babies, no dating, and no sex with men. Apparently this has become viral over TikTok and now X and some of these other platforms that you can see here. I'm going to show you one example of this live stream that I just bookmarked, just so we can kind of discuss it and talk about it here. And let me go here. I think this is going to be a little bit better for you. So let me go ahead and project this from the screen. Maybe you've already seen this, and I apologize. This is new for me on X, so just bear with me here as I...
Not that my content reaches a lot of men because I have an IQ of 130, but I want the men in this country to know that half the female population, we're dry. We're probably going to stay dry. I'm dry as a desert, baby, and I don't want it to change. Yeah, we're not going to like you anymore. You understand that? Like, it doesn't matter if you take away abortion. Like, we'll want to have your babies even less, right? Even if you take away contraception, like, women are really good at celibacy because you guys are actually a threat to us. So we have a lot less to gain from you. So yeah, 4B all the way. Let's make some money, I guess. That's all we can do now. Not that my content reaches a lot.
Let's make some money. I don't understand this. And I'm not, let me change this because I don't want this to go. Let's see if I can put a background here and make this look a little bit better and switch this up a little bit. Really would love to get your thoughts on this. Just live streaming here in the past 10 minutes. If you're just joining us, welcome to a Friday session, the Jeff Zapp Show. And thank you for anyone that's out there on X getting a chance to see this, go ahead and share or retweet. This is a brand new platform for me. It's not new for podcasting or live streaming for me, as you well know. I've been doing this for my own show last couple years, last 4 years with my buddy Big Al Flowers on Talk One Radio. And a lot of the influencers that I've had an opportunity to meet over the past 3 years and doing this specifically from a professional standpoint, the X is new. And in fact, let's see, I saw Tracy Beans earlier this morning on X, and she was doing a stream. I think she uses Restream as well. Anyways, I just stopped on. Hello, Tracy. If you get a chance to see this, I appreciate the love from all of you. So go ahead and share this with your family and friends. And just because we're, again, trying to create or initiate some dialogue. This goes back to the clip that I just shared with you for this movement. This movement that has taken over the TikTok and X over the last couple of days since the ensuing election Tuesday, and American women are now, in solidarity saying we're not going to have sex with men, we're going to shave our head, there's going to be no dating, no marriage, on and on and on and on. Okay, well, again, as I mentioned, that's their right to do that. I just don't think we can get over the animosity. I want to say it's not only just anger, which is, I think, that's primary emotion, but it manifests itself in hate, this irrational lashing out of people because they, let's just use the example, because they identify as a supporter of a particular person. That could be Biden, Harris, Trump, Mahatma Gandhi, and I'm being a little facetious there, but you know what I mean. And so some people have succumbed to this information war that we are in. And they have been brainwashed to a point where trying to have a rational dialogue with someone over a particular topic has just, we've thrown all common sense out the window. And that's true for me to a certain degree as well, because that ability of each one of us to kind of, our inability to step aside, the cognitive dissonance that occurs. And most importantly, as I've said, it's very easy for us to say, okay, we want to associate ourselves with a particular camp, and so we cling to the flag that's raised over in this camp. And this is true across the board. We want to be able to align ourselves with a certain set of values and so forth. And I always am trying to make sure that as a Christian, especially because we are hypocritical, and I am myself sometimes, not always, but I'm imperfect just like you. And so as a result of that, what I find is when somebody says, well, you're not talking the walk or walking the talk. And I agree. Each one of us is true with that. But what we want to do is we have this confirmation bias where we tend to say, yeah, I agree with these principles according to the right or the left or LGBTQ plus or what have you, because that's where social media, I think, has done us a disservice. We're so quick to jump and ridicule or be condescending in our views. Hey, that's fine. If they want to stand in solidarity, good for them. I'm not here to throw mud at anybody. I am wondering that in the grand scheme of, in terms of all this hate, that when I read the Bible, when I look at what Jesus specifically tells us, the Sermon on the Mount, that we're not, especially us as Christians, as an opportunity for brothers and sisters to stand in solidarity, to recognize that we can love our neighbors as ourselves. And it's not that easy. If we go and take a look at Luke chapter 6, Matthew, Mark, Luke, so the third gospel in the New Testament. And I just brought this up because what I did is I searched for the word hate in the Bible, and it brings up, I use the Blue Letter Bible, by the way. If you're wondering how I bring this up, I have my hard copy Bible that I use, the English Standard Version. I have the King James Version, the New King James Version here at my desk or my studio. But online it's easy because if I want to look at the Greek or get into some of the lexicon, do some research on even some of the summaries that are provided there, it's really good. So blueletterbible.org. Luke chapter 6, verse 27, Jesus speaking here, "But I say to you here, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you." One of the things that I want to just adamantly say here, without unequivocally, that regardless of where you stand in this debate or what's going on, remember that God has created each one of us, man and woman, mankind, that he's created us in his image. And so each one of us are valued. Each one of us is unique. And a lot of these disagreements, it's so easy for me to look at and point at somebody else and demean them when I fail to recognize that common principle that each one of us has been created in the image of God. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to have disagreements. We absolutely are. We're not all going to agree. We're not all going to stand around and sing Kumbaya. This isn't a utopia. We live in a fallen, broken world. If you're wondering why the things are happening the way they are in the world, it's because something is terribly wrong. And there's really only one answer. I always say the Christian worldview is really, truly, I saw this on Joe Rogan, or someone had put an X is pretty cool. I'm just starting to get into it. I never really was into Twitter. Again, the shadow banning, some of the stuff that you couldn't say was politically. I think that Elon's doing a fantastic job with X and being able to promote free speech, okay? So you may disagree with me, but what I've seen, I have been censored. I have been deplatformed. I have been all of that. We had Parler and some of the other things that came out of or manifested after like 20, I can't even remember. I don't want to speak nonsense, but you remember this. Some of the newer platforms like BitChute and all these other things where a lot of people were running to because they were afraid if they said XYZ during a broadcast or live stream or podcast, then guess what? You were deplatformed, or worse, some of the platforms would go back into my archives with the AI tools and just delete stuff. So my point of all this is we might have disagreements, but that's good. Having an opportunity to have some discussions. We're not always going to agree because this world is broken and fallen. And the Christian worldview especially says that we can't clean ourselves up, that there was one who decided to come and to save and to rescue us. And if you listen to my podcast earlier this week on Monday, I talked about 3 parables that Jesus teaches in Luke chapter 15. Go back and listen to it. Go to my website and check it out, thejeffzappshow.com. This isn't me. I didn't wake up today and say, hey, this is going to be a great, motivational message for all those listeners out on social media platform. No, because as a matter of fact, as soon as I say the word Jesus, most of you are so tuned off and you go, here's a Jesus freak again. And I get it because I was once there. What I wanted to talk about this Friday is the ability for us as a nation to heal. We once had guardrails to protect our democracy, but it was all under the auspices of knowing that our rights came from an almighty creator, that we believed that we were one nation under God and that we did have some morality. And of course, because politics, as Andrew Breitbart always said, is downstream of the culture, our culture, especially post-World War II, has gone in the wrong direction. And what you're seeing, what we are witnessing today as a society, not only here in the United States but abroad, is absolute lunacy. You can't believe that there's 1,000 different genders when in reality we both know, just look to nature. You don't see a dog having a crisis about trying to determine whether or not it's a male dog or a female dog. And see, that's what I'm saying. Most people have bought into the lie in this information war that we've been in. And maybe you've been there, or maybe you're starting to come on, and again, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Like, if you stand with the Republicans and Trump, you're in the right. No, because we're not we're imperfect. We're not always right. What I'm suggesting to you is this podcast, if you decide to start listening or share this, I'm going to try to speak the truth as best as I can in my imperfect ability to point you to Jesus, because he, God himself incarnate, he's the only one that can do exactly what we can never do, which is to clean ourselves up in this mess. God made him who knew no sin to be sin for us, so that in him, in Jesus, we might become the righteousness of God. It's called a great exchange. If you are declarative for justice and reform and all this stuff, there's somebody that's already came. He took care of the mess for you on the cross. That's what the cross of Christ is all about 2,000 years ago. He came, he took the punishment. He died on the cross, spread eagle on the town garbage heap. God raised him from the dead 3 days later. He is now ascended into heaven. He's seated at the right hand of God. There's no sweat on his upper brow. The only one that can clean up the mess, it's not Donald Trump, and it's not Biden or Harris or whomever else you place your trust in mankind, because man is not going to be able to do it. If you don't believe me, go back and read the Bible, whether it was King David, one of the other kings, one of the judges for the Israelites, they always messed it up. The King of Kings, whose reign is established forever, is coming back to clean up the mess. So look busy. No, I'm just kidding. Don't look busy. Go check him out, who this Jesus is. And hopefully you'll stick around and be able to glean some details of who this Jesus is. If I do my part to speak the truth to you in love, then maybe, just maybe, we'll get to a point to where we can start to treat each other, fellow man, fellow woman, as individuals that have been created in the image of God. So thanks for listening to that little rant there. But those are some of the reasons when I look at what's happening here on Twitter, TikTok, and some of the other social media platforms. How do we take hold, if you will, gain back some of the, I don't know, I'm not really finding the words today. How do we embrace each other and have some common ground in terms of establishing a dialogue that's meaningful to where we can get past some of these differences? I will say that when I took a look at what Trump has mentioned here in terms of what he wants to do, let's go ahead and take a listen here, what he says here.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all, and corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications. So many judges have seen so many applications that they know were wrong, or at least they must have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied to. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption, and there are plenty of them. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy. When possible, we will press criminal charges. Sixth, we will make every Inspector General's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Just as I moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado, as many as 100,000 government positions could be moved out, and I mean immediately, of Washington.
All right. Well, sorry, I know lots of you. I'm still learning how, as a one-man band, to bring this all together there. I think it's important that we pause there, just as he talks about, say, dismantling the bureaucratic machine, the government, which is, I say, it's an overrun, bloated, outdated system of bureaucracy. And, you know, we're a constitutional republic. Yes, we have democratic principles. You hear a lot of people, we have to safeguard, the buzz term, safeguard democracy. People are talking about changing the Electoral College. A democracy, as you know, 51% majority rules. That's not what this nation is all about. A constitutional republic is a representative form of government whereby it's not popular majority. So it's not 51% of the people get to say who the president is, because there are sectors within the United States, whereas, you know, it's, let's say, for example, California. They have a lot more population density. And so because if we just let all of those, well, let's say all of those people that want to elect President Smith, then if at 51% majority, then they're going to get their wish. And that's not how it works. It's not, our form of government is a representative form of government, which is a republic. And so all of those arguments for abolishing the Electoral College, I just disagree with you wholeheartedly. What Trump is trying to do, and I think when he brings in the dream team that he's, quote, assembled, you have Elon Musk specifically being able to focus on government efficiencies. Listen, the government, wherever you are in your age, how your experiences, I'm not lecturing you on that. I'm just saying that if you feel that it's fine that, you know, the amount of taxes we pay, how their government is run, where a majority of our taxpayer funds go to support foreign nations and foreign wars and maybe other things that could be well spent here for us at home. And I'm not just talking about, quote, America first. There's so many things that can be done here in the United States of America to bring manufacturing, to bring jobs, good paying jobs, to help bring an economic growth spurt here into the United States. Talk about healing. I think if we do this, working on the fact that we've turned to government to be the answer to all of our, you know, the solution to all of our problems. We don't want that anymore. So I think listening to this, it's been pretty neat to see all these things taking shape already. Last but not least, I want to talk about all of the I don't want to say how this is conspiracy, maybe. Let me change my screen here on Wirecast. So I've got to go back and let's just go to live here. I think this will be fine. This will go full screen here so you can see that. Broadcast background, and let's go here to center, and then there you can see it. That's a little bit better. Nobody wants to see my ugly mug. Okay, so, you know, a lot of the conspiracy, it's been so quiet. Joe Biden's going to give, you know, the transfer of government, there's going to be no issues. Listen, I've said before, I don't have a crystal ball, neither do you. And I have stated unequivocally that people that believe that there's some conspiratorial plan to save America or all this other stuff, there may or may not be elements of truth to that. I do know that we live in a disinformation war, which means that as we try to ascertain what the truth is, man, it's hard as all get out, especially on social media platforms, to discern what is true, what is not. My show, if you're just joining me, is all about one thing. It's for me as a failed, broken, sinful individual to be able to point to others of the faith that I have in Christ as an authentic testimony of me, of an individual, to say, man, yeah, I'm broken. There's only one that can heal me. I'm like one beggar telling other beggars where I found the bread of life, man. Jesus is the bread of life. I don't know what's going to happen. I know at some point, all this stuff isn't going to matter much to me, because as I get older, I can see it in daily. There's the breakdown, there's the morality breakdown, but also within me, there's a desire that there's got to be some truth and justice that never happens here. And I know that as a believer because God tells me about it in his love letter to us, the Holy Bible. If you've never read it, if you think that I'm full of, you know what, I get it. Because again, in my 20s, I was there. It wasn't until my early 30s. And sometimes if you want to, and you can comment below, I'd be glad to share my testimony, what my journey was like, which is different than yours. And as I stated this broadcast with, I don't have a monopoly on the truth. Jesus said he was the truth, that he is the truth, the way, and the life. And only the God of Christianity, out of all the religions that you study, that God himself comes and does that what you and I can never do, which is to save ourselves. Why would God do that? It's very clear that God loves you. He knows what you're going through. He is the only sovereign one. If he's not, then we're all in trouble. It's not Trump. It's not Biden. It's not Harris. It's not Obama. It's whomever you place in your faith, your trust in. That's not the case. So if you enjoy this, stick around. You can go to my website right down below. Jeff@thejeffzappshow.com is my email address. You want to reach out to me. You want to be a guest on this platform. You're certainly welcome. You have disagreements, throw them out there. I'm wrong. Sometimes you are as well. But if we can start loving each other as ourselves, as Jesus said, we're to love our neighbor as ourselves. So if we can start doing that, that's a great step forward. Don't get wrapped around the axles, like I like to say, with all the details and everything that's going on in this nation. Hey, if you want to subscribe to a particular movement, that's your choice. Just be very careful, as I said, where you align yourself, where you raise your flag, and what camp that you say that you're in. We're in the humankind camp. If we are created in the image of God, and there is a God who is sovereign, and he has placed guardrails in our lives to protect us, not to be some all-consuming police officer that cracks us on the head when we step out of line. If that's what you believe, you've been worshiping at the wrong altar. And so whether you're agnostic, atheist, somewhere left of or right of Genghis Khan or Whoopi Goldberg, you're free to come and to share your ideas. Appreciate you joining me on this Friday session to check out X. Hopefully it's working. We'll get better at it. Until the next time, Zapper out. Thanks for tuning in. Would you please do me a big favor? Like, subscribe, and share this content with your family and friends. Send your questions, comments, or requests for interviews to info@thejeffzappshow.com. Visit our website at thejeffzappshow.com to sign up for our newsletter, catch up on archive shows, or to link to our social media. See you next time right here on The Jeff Zapp Show.